This is the section that I've termed General Tech Terms. So we start with ALM, Application Lifecycle Management, the process of managing a software application from its conception to its end of life, which involves many disciplines including requirements management, computer programming, software testing and maintenance, change management, release management, continuous integration, and project management. ALM, Application Lifecycle Management. And then we have API, which is Application Programming Interface, a software intermediary that allows applications to communicate with each other and share data or functionality. APIs are a set of rules and protocols that can be used to extract and share data within and across organizations. API, Application Programming Interface. And then we have a cookie. It's a small amount of data generated by a website and saved by a web browser. Its purpose is to remember information about the website viewer, similar to a preference file created by a software application. While cookies serve many functions, their most common purpose is to store login information for a specific site, and that's a cookie. Data architecture is a broad term. It's a structure for organizing or the standards that govern how data is collected, arranged, integrated, and used in data systems. That's data architecture. Data capture, the methodology by which an enterprise captures data from various systems, whether that is through pixel-based tagging, manual upload, or API. Data lake, a repository of all types of enterprise data, including raw copies of source system data and transformed data used for tasks such as reporting, visualization, analytics, and machine learning. And so it's useful to note that while Data Cloud, the app, sits in the Salesforce CRM, the data that is ingested stays out in a data lake, and it's represented in Data Cloud, but the data actually sits in a data lake. And we also see this term later when we talk about federated data, where we don't actually ingest the data, but we let the data live in the lake that is its source. Bring your own lake. And we can also in Data Cloud deal with data that's in its own data lake. So Data Cloud provides us a data lake. And interestingly also, the data lake objects that do exist inside Data Cloud are what represents or holds the data so that we can see it in Data Cloud, but it actually resides in a data lake that is not inside Salesforce. Now, a data warehouse is different from a data lake. A data warehouse is a repository for structured, filtered data that has already been processed for a specific purpose. So a data lake can have all kinds of data. It can have raw data that hasn't been transformed. It can also have unstructured data, if I understand correctly, whereas a data warehouse, this says, is going to have structured data. A database is an organized collection of structured information, also known as data, typically stored in a computer system. A persistent database stores data for a long time, for example, storing customer purchase data for several years. Relational data is data whose organization is based on the relational model of data. This model organizes data into one or more tables or relations, we also call them objects in Salesforce, of rows and columns with a unique key for each row. We will talk about primary and foreign keys later, but the term key could be its own row, which is really just an identifier. It's a field or an attribute that holds a unique identifier for the record or the row. Java Database Connectivity. Oh, I should have said the acronym first. JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. This is an application programming interface, or API, for the programming language Java, which defines how a client accesses a database. And I saw a different definition that says it's a driver that allows for a connection to Data Cloud, ANSI SQL API. Java, here's the acronym. JSON, JSON, stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which is a lightweight format for transferring data, also defined as a standard text-based format for representing structured database on JavaScript syntax. It's used to send related attribute data from Data Cloud to engagement, marketing engagement. JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, which we saw right up here. This JSON we just talked about, it's the JavaScript object notation. Okay, a mobile app. We get into something a lot more familiar to most of us. It's an application on iOS or Android. Push notifications on mobile. These are alerts that the app sends on a mobile device home screen when the user's not using the app. These alerts can consist of text, icons, and sounds depending on the device type. SMS, sticking with the mobile thing, is short message service. These are text-only messages with a maximum character length of 160. RAG. These are 3 bonus topics. They are not, actually these last 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are not in the official glossary, but I did come across them in the Data Cloud materials. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And the idea here is that you may have an LLM that's been trained on vast volumes of data and uses billions of parameters to generate original output for tasks like answering questions, translating languages, or completing sentences. But a RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, extends the already powerful capabilities of LLMs to specific domains or an organization's internal knowledge base without retraining the model. It's a cost-effective approach to improving the LLM output so that it remains relevant, accurate, and useful in various contexts. SFRA stands for Storefront Reference Architecture. And I did see this quote somewhere that said, if your business runs on Storefront Reference Architecture, SFRA, or Site Genesis, it was in the Commerce Cloud QuickBook. So just made a note of what that acronym means. And 2 more, UUID. This is a universally unique identifier. And I got this definition from Wikipedia. So the idea is that it's a method for generating a truly unique throughout the world, throughout all time ID. And even though it's not guaranteed to be unique, it's pretty well, seems to work pretty well. And another term is globally unique identifier, which is a Microsoft term, according to Wikipedia. And finally, YAML, which is not Data Cloud specific, but stands for Yet Another Markup Language, which is a human-readable data serialization language that's often used for writing configuration files. Depending on whom you ask, YAML stands for Yet Another Markup Language, or YAML ain't markup language, which is a recursive acronym, which emphasizes that YAML is for data, not for documents.